live our show for anybody out there who's afraid to fly, people who are know somebody who's afraid to fly, and people who just like to hang out with demented people in the airline industry and see what's going on out there. And we just got a hodgepodge tonight. And if I'm good enough, I was going to show this card that Brother Eric gave to me. If I can figure out.
I can't wait for it.
Yeah, let me see. I gotta figure out.
With bated breath. Everybody wait with bated breath.
Oh boy. Okay, scan.
Well, I think the spirit of the show tonight is all about celebrations. So there you go.
Yeah, it is.
There you
Yeah,
go.
yeah.
Today is a very special
I'll
day.
see if I can bring it up later there. We want to start out by talking about some successes here. And I think I had the pictures in the slides here, but I think I'll just pull the Facebook up on the screen, because we were getting some good action out of that just a minute ago. So let me see.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, I'll open that up over there. Okay. So I trust you guys can see that.
Yep. We're seeing your.
Yeah. Okay.
That's Tom gone wild.
Yeah.
There we go.
So we want to. I actually wrote Tom. I think he's probably jet lagged the way he's been flying lately. He just came home, I think, probably this afternoon. From Poland. He went over to visit his family, and that was his big thrust. It was just a year ago that he and I and Oliver Fry and Wendy flew together. Let's see, I think they came over here to Phoenix first. Tom drove, Oliver drove. Wendy actually flew, bless her heart. She was terrified to fly, and she flew over here. We did some
Uh-oh. Okay, he froze. When he comes back, we'll let him finish.
Okay.
But welcome aboard, everybody. He's moving. He smiled.
Yeah, and I can tell when nothing freezes on my screen. So it's always entertaining to hear what you guys do when I freeze.
I was ready.
Ooh.
Anyway,
we'll have to clean up our act then.
Wendy just sent me a happy birthday reading today, and she said she has flown 48 times in this past year now. I think that's pretty close to a record for anybody that I've ever worked with before. And let me tell you, a year ago, people started to get the idea that it was time to go flying again. And we've been just, personally, I've never done so much coaching in all my life. As I have this last year. We got things happening all the time. We got people flying. Tom is flying. You guys can see the picture there, right?
Yeah.
Tom there. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And and he just sent these today. I don't know what class he flew on the way over, but he decided to treat himself on the way back. And this is someone who flew and did okay the first time a year ago, and then had kind of a slide in on 3 occasions that I can remember. He shared with me, he says, Ron, I just can't do this anymore. And I encourage him not to make a decision on the day when he got off the airplane. That's usually not the best time to decide, but he's stuck with it, bless his heart. And just a month ago, he and Wendy flew over here again, and then he went on to Florida. God, I don't even know where all he's been in the last couple of weeks. You know, but you can see he is actually loving it, and that's a big question that we get from time to time from people: is can I ever get to where I love it? And I say, don't limit yourself. Fly and do the best you can, and if you should happen to love it, more power to you and the airlines, because they're going to get a lot more money from you. So, but this is a flight he was on. This was, I believe, the return trip coming back on American. This is only business class, which you can see it's pretty smooth because those seats flatten out, and you got your own little cubicle, very private in kind of a neat environment. First class, you can imagine, is something even beyond this, and I will tell you about that next month when I go to Europe. So we'll see what happens. Whoops.
I think one of the reasons that Tom probably, the whole experience has been so wonderful is that he went over to Poland for a wedding. So
Yeah.
there was a real motivator there for him, as is the case for so many, if not all of our fearful flyers, is they have something they want to do, some folks they want to see, some places they want to visit, some event they want to participate in. And so that makes the whole trip experience very much more positive, I think.
Yeah, and that was
the picture that Tom had for this wedding. He was at a wedding. It looked marvelous. Looked like he was having a fabulous time back in Poland, and I can't wait to hear all the stories. So yeah.
And he'd been really struggling because he wanted to go back and visit his folks for some time. So so that was just.
And I remember one of the things we have in the Clit for Takeoff 201 course that we do is what's your why? You know, what is your why? Because it's your why that actually will fuel, you know, when you don't feel quite so confident. But it's not something that, you know, we can just glance over. It's something we really got to dig deep into.
Right.
And, you know, just like a wedding or something like that is a really powerful why, and it can really pull you along to your destination. So I'm really looking forward to asking Tom about that part too, because I know he was in a 201 course. So yeah.
This
is what brother Eric gave me as a birthday card, and the caption on the inside is, "You were a year ahead of me in high school." So I have one that's similar that is with a woman, probably that same model, and she was in a wedding dress, and she said, "Never give up." So that's always been a theme here at Fearless Flight. Never give up.
Never give up.
And I'm the next oldest, and if anybody gives me a card like that, you're all in trouble.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. We want to hear from you tonight. We're on a slowdown. We're all on a work slowdown. We decided that we need to have some help because we're with the exception of Dieter, we're all airline employees and we don't work for a living. We just enjoy ourselves. So we wanted to hear from somebody who's got a flight coming up that they're not too crazy about. All right, they want to make the flight, but they're having a struggle there. We'd like to hear from you tonight. And
I think there's a couple of people on the show watching that might have a flight coming up, if I remember correctly. So don't be shy. Let us know. And by the way, there's lots and lots and lots of happy birthday wishes to you.
Oh, thanks.
From everyone who's watching. So
I've been told I don't look a day over 75. And so I'll take that as a compliment.
Thank God.
I'll tell you what, it's really strange because I've been talking to some friends today, and you know, I don't feel 75, you know, and I've been told that I'm still immature, so that might contribute to that. But it's really an amazing thing. But thanks for all the well wishes. I did get a lot of folks that wish me well today, and I appreciate that. So
we got two. We got
okay, lay it on us.
We got Jim. I have a flight coming up, and I'm super excited about it. So
yeah, well, Jim, you're no fun anymore. You know, you just fly without reason. You know, you could teach the damn course now. You know,
yes.
No, seriously, I'm really happy for you, Jim. Jim is somebody kind of like Tom in that same category. He hadn't flown, and he flew, and now he's just flying all over. He's a flying fool. So
and then we have and please forgive me if I battered the name here, Shioban, flying soon and so scared, but with the help of you guys, I can do it. So
cool.
That's also very cool.
Had a guy, had a fella call in last week, just a 15-minute coaching call. He happened to be, I may have mentioned him last week, but he happened to be in Florida. He had driven, he says, for other than flying reasons, but he was down there with his family, his wife, and he has a little one. And he had a trip coming up right after Memorial Day. And I said, you know, what we say to most people, if you're within 7 days, not much is going to change in terms of the things that you can do, but it doesn't mean don't try anything. But we recommend the flight harmonizer. And sure enough, he got the stinking harmonizer, and he wrote me the next day. He said he fell asleep for 40 minutes on the flight. And I just thought, God. Yeah, that's just the best. Not because it's something that we put out, but because we're really happy that people, you know, can do that. And that's the second tier of our fearless flight method. You know, educate yourself, learn how to disrupt and distract yourself, and then the third one is join a community, get a sense of community, because that when we go fly, it's totally about the community. And the 201 class, which is really starting to take off, people are joining up with that. That is the way to do it. That's the way that we help people implement those three methods, or the three things to the fearless flight method. Is you gotta learn something new. You gotta learn how to disrupt and distract your thinking, and you really need to connect with other people and get over the fact that you're not the only one out there. That is probably the most limiting thing that people report, is that they're worried about what other people think. You know, I was just talking to somebody today about the Boston flight in March, and what a group of great people to start with. But when we showed up at the airport, you'd be hard pressed to think that they had any issues with fear flying, because they're like, you know, it's like a family reunion. You know, we spent time on the air together in the webinars, which is still a thing. We do monthly coaching webinars if you're in the 201, and the people show up. And imagine, instead of going to the airport, you're all alone, or maybe you got a loved one with you who has no clue what it's like to be you, and you feel totally alone. You know, and now everybody you look at, all you see in them is them looking at you thinking, wow, what a weirdo. This person, there's something, you know, mental about them. And the fact is that they're suffering from the same issues you are typically, but they're just hiding it just as well as you are. But contrast that with the group in Boston, you know, and we'll see it again on our 301 class in Burbank this Saturday again. People come in and they see people they know, and it completely drops all that crap off of the shame and embarrassment. And now now they connect with people. We get on the airplane, and first thing you know, we're landing in Sacramento, and I'm saying, you guys are a bunch of phonies, you know. I mean, there's like nobody that's having an issue with that, and it's just awesome to see that. And people don't believe it, but you know, no, nobody's as bad off as I am. No, not since the last person, you know. But other than that, so
we got a few more here, okay. And so Siobhan, so now I'm glad. Thank you for letting me know how to say your name properly.
Yeah.
But she was saying that she literally was physically experiencing symptoms, making herself sick. Sure. And I just want to say, Siobhan, if you haven't talked to Captain Ron in a 15-minute coaching call, I'll put a link in, because that's a free call for you, just to kind of discuss what kind of options there are for you. But so I have a good one, though, that I think is better reserved, that question, for the points guy than us, because Susan Miglaggio is asking, how do I fly like Tom in business class on a tight budget? So that I don't know how.
I don't know, Susan, but knowing you better now, if anybody can pull it off, you can do it. Trust me.
Probably you.
Right? Yeah. You give them the Susan Wiles, man, and they're going to be toast. Yeah, seriously.
I will tell you that the fares for us and for everybody are just going through the roof this summer.
Right. They're making it all up.
Next week, I'm flying up to Washington to see my grandchildren, and then further on down, some of the fares are it's like a gallon of gas. It's like,
well, that's what Sue Hopkins has. She said she was looking for flights, and it's like crazy.
It's very expensive. It's very expensive. And my planes are still full. I mean, my planes are still full. I have a 4-day trip starting tomorrow morning, and so far everything but maybe one leg is virtually completely full.
Yeah,
Wow.
they're filling up the loads, and I was going to show. I get stuff from Southwest all the time, and they're having a fare sale, but you have to purchase in the next 2 days. So if you it's tough, because if they're not going when you want to go, it's hard to take advantage of it. But if you have any flexibility at all, if you put your name on a list with all the airlines, but Southwest in particular, so they got the next 2 days, they're running discount fares for the period between August 16th and November something or other, okay? And if you can go get in there and particularly buy them now and early, you can get some good deals. That's the best. And that's what we try to do. I wish I had a whole bunch of people that wanted to do a 301 class together, because we'd go out in the next 2 days and buy the tickets for it, because you can get ahead of the curve. But yeah, they're making up for lost time, and the loads are up. Everybody got the same ID at the same time. COVID ain't the threat that it was, and we want to go out here. I think there's a lot more people flying that wouldn't even have flown before, just because they're just everybody's got cabin fever and wants to get out there and get away from the house.
Most of the airlines said they expect to surpass pre-COVID summer travel level.
Yeah.
That's what I heard as well.
Without the capacity to handle it, obviously.
Yeah, I've been shopping some tickets when I get to Europe, doing a couple of side flights over there, and those loads were really peaked out too. And I find out we've been living on borrowed time over here. The U.S. has probably some of the cheapest domestic flights prices that you can get. You look over there in some of the European flights, man. It's interesting, and they have a thing they call like bottom feeding. That's where you don't even get to that. They don't call it that, Diane, but it's like I forget what it's called. It's called basically El Cheapo, and then El Cheapo Plus, and then the regular world. And El Cheapo is like Spirit. The airlines where you have to pay for everything. You don't get a check bag. You have to pay for overhead storage or anything like that. Right. So that's the super cheapest fare. And that's about the same as the domestic fares over here. And then the El Cheapo Plus, now you get one check bag and you get an overhead bag, I feel like we've been a little bit spoiled over here for quite a while. But anyway, I'm hoping to do some roving reporter stuff when I'm over there and feedback to the show here and share my experiences.
Inquiring minds will want to know for sure.
Yeah. And I noticed when I was looking at flights, I noticed I had some biases which were totally not based in any facts of anything, but I just said, well, I think I'm going to go with this airline versus this airline. And it wasn't solely based on price either, just from not knowing the airline. So good on me for, finally getting out there, realizing what you guys go through. But so we come pre-equipped with preloaded with biases. And so that's the thing out there.
I want to throw something out there along with for the domestic, for the U.S. Carriers. When you book your tickets, and certainly we're all trying to look for a good deal, but understand you need to read the it's not even fine print. You need to read the print that goes along with the fare class that you're purchasing.
Yeah.
Because the people that get on my plane and they'll be all the way in the back, and if I'm aft flight attendant, they'll say, oh my God, I'm all the way in the back. And I'll say, try to make it light. I'll say, yes, you're back in the fun section with me. And I try to make it light and nice and everything else. But by the time you get back there, the seats don't necessarily recline. The bins may be full. My bins back in the aft part of my plane have emergency equipment. So there's not a lot of bin space. So understand when you buy your ticket, what you're getting. And that will lessen the frustration that you may have when you finally get your seat. So just kind of throwing that out.
And you pretty much have to read it, because I went on, made a couple of phone calls to check things out, and with Delta, it was it was 8 hours, and you could not sometimes they'll take your phone number and give you a call back. Nope, you had to wait on the phone for that one.
Yeah.
And American was similar, but they did take your number and call you back down the road there.
Yeah.
So it's, if you can, you want to get a little bit more well versed at finding your own information on there. And you can send questions to us and stuff. We don't know, but we'll help you find an answer.
And there's one more thing I want to throw out there too, and that is, and you'll see it online on occasion. If you're buying tickets, I don't want to diss the consolidators, but understand that if you buy a ticket from a consolidator, which means it's a third party, it's not the airline.
Yeah, third party, you're right. Like Expedia,
or Kayak or any of those others.
Yeah.
You have the price may be better, but you have very little protection if something goes wrong. And
if you need to get information or work on it, you got to go to them.
And exactly. And if a flight gets canceled, you are really kind of up the stream without a paddle, as they say. So
and it's never been more important, Diane, than now, and for the reasons that Ron's mentioning, because it's almost this whole idea of calling an airline. I mean, that's gone with COVID. Like we have really kind of lost that whole aspect of customer service with the airlines. Because I remember last year even with Lufthansa, usually a great airline. But 3 hours in queue.
That goes right back to the fact the staffing. People think about there's not that many pilots, there's not that many flight attendants, but the staffing problem goes to rampers, goes to gate agents, goes to those call centers. So the staffing problem is across the board. So if you think it's just the flight attendants and the pilots that there's a shortage, it's everywhere.
Yeah. All right. We want to know, somebody out there, how long for some of you.
Oh, there he goes again.
Oh, he's frozen.
Yada, yada, yada.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's see. The fun part is he can still hear us.
I know. We
back.
lost our chance. Okay.
He's back. We gave it up. Oh, now he's screwing with us.
Yes.
He's not frozen.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you now. Yeah.
Okay. Great. So we want to hear from people who haven't flown in a while. So we want to see who's the person who hasn't flown the longest. 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, 7 years, 10 years. Somebody came up to me at the class on Saturday night and said it's been 25 years. Ooh. They were thinking that they were in the running, and I said, nope. Susan from Boston is the new record holder at 50 years. 50.
Oh,
yeah. Yep.
Wow.
And but we want to give honorable mention to people who haven't flown in a year. That's enough for our purposes here. And
I know that Tracy mentioned, and that's such a well, it so rings true, because she said it's been a long time, and she flew in March. So she has a flight coming up, and she's a little nervous, and it is this idea that the if you snooze you lose, if you're not staying with it. And in some ways we are talking about a desensitizing in a way. So even if you can get to the airport, even if you can walk through an airport these days, and you haven't been there in a while, I would recommend it, because it'll just help you get familiar with what it will feel like being in that environment. And I can definitely speak for Canada here. We have got long security lines, long lines at the gate agents for, but also even just checking in, for exactly the reasons that Diane was saying. Like, there's such a backlog, and they can't hire enough people fast enough to accommodate all that exuberance in traveling. So my recommendation is definitely, if you have a chance, go and hang out, at the airport for a little bit to just kind of get a feel again of what it's going to be like. If that's something that, you think might help you on the day, then definitely that's many have done that, actually, many fearful flyers.
Yeah. I wish all of you could have just some of the experience I have of hearing from somebody every day who didn't fly and who's flying. It's so hard when you're, it's better if you're in the Birds of a Feather group, or you at least participate in our Facebook group, but it's so hard to believe that people get over this regularly. And the greatest guarantee that you won't ever get over it is if you never do anything different. If you don't do anything different, you're gonna get the same results. And I've been doing this for 35 years. I just did a little math. I said if I had one person that I talked to every day, and believe me, I've got days when I talk to far more than that. I've actually physically had contact with 12,700 people in the time that I've been doing this. And it's been far more than that, I can tell you. But I get people there's not a day goes by when I don't hear from somebody that's talking about how they're flying and how great it is and how they never thought that they would get past that. And again, it still surprises me after 35 years that something that many of us take for granted is such a challenge for some people. But that's the way it is. And we all have anxiety. There's no question about that. It just shows up in different areas there. I had a fellow last Saturday night that actually could not navigate from the parking garage to the ticket counter to meet up with us to go under.
Wow.
Yeah, it's just really bad anxiety. And it was different from some of the other cases I've heard. He has trouble in grocery stores and other places as well. He feels exposed when he's out in a large open area, and that's why. So probably going to end up coaching with him and meeting him at the airport and stuff. And I physically went up to meet him to talk with him, and I just I said, whatever you do, don't beat on yourself tonight. You got to the airport, that's a good deal.
That's a good first step. Yeah.
But it's our mind. We Eric and I talk about how great simulation is in flight simulators, but the best simulator in the world is the one between your ears. You can imagine things that nobody can. If you don't believe that, go watch Top Gun, the new Top Gun that's out. That'll show you that you can walk in that theater and it's a two-dimensional screen, and you will absolutely have some thrills of your life in there. I'm here to tell you that as an aviator, never take a pilot with you to an aviation movie. That's probably a rule. But if you go to this one and I were to go with you, I'd keep my mouth shut, because there's never been, I flew those kinds of airplanes, and I've never seen, going back to Top Gun 1, I've never seen a more authentic depiction of the thrill you get from being up there and having an airplane go past you at 800 miles an hour. It's just really, really, I mean, I got goosebumps just describing that. And they had every bit the flying scenes in this one that they did in the first one. So it's pretty cool. Yeah. And I don't know, some of you may have seen Tom Cruise, of course, has his own Air Force, basically. And there's the guy who does the Late Late Show, James Corden. He invited him to go out there, and that guy's hysterical anyway. And he takes him up in a P-51, which is a World War II vintage fighter. And then he has a, I don't know, Eric, I'm not that good on airplanes, but it's kind of like there's companies that sell kind of like fighters, and they're foreign. I don't think anybody in the US makes them, but
right.
But, he had one of those where you suit up, you got an ejection seat and all that, and of course Cruise has got one of those. So anyway, so he takes. I mean, and it's funny, Corden is just to look at his face is a scream, but you just and he goes inverted and does a Cuban 8 and a barrel roll and a couple of things like that, and pretty soon James's cookies are about to come up, and it was funny. But anyway, so. Go to see Top Gun, just lose yourself in the fantasy of flight. What can I
just
say?
realize that commercial airliners are not quite that thrilling.
Yeah, right. But I always said, people said, can you do that in a 737? I said, sure, once, because that would be my last flight. You know, that would definitely be my retirement flight. But you can do that. You can do it. You can do a loop in a 737. You can go down and up all the way around like that. And believe it or not, if you put your drink on your tray table in front of you, you never spill a drop.
If you do the loop right, that's right.
If you do the loop right,
I did that in a glider. Years ago, Hawaii. I was in a glider with an instructor who had been in the Air Force. It was one of the aerobatic gliders, and we did loops and rolls and all kinds of stuff like that.
Big power, they all fly.
Yeah.
So for those of you who feel that G-force when you lift off the runway, if you just imagine keep pulling the nose up and going over, you would feel pressure in the seat all the way around. Hard to believe, but whatever. Okay, well, we're getting way off the subject here, but
Jim says if his A321 does a barrel roll, he'll not fly again.
yeah.
I hear you.
And neither will the crew that did it.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
We'd all retire right at that point.
That'll be the last one for sure. So anyway, well, it's been fun this week. We'll be back next week, unless we get any burning questions or burning comments here. We're going to let you go again, and keep those cards and letters coming. Those of you in the 201 course, I'll be posting 2 new pieces of content. One, we've wired down the interview last week that we did to Nat and added some other information to it. So we've got another piece of overwater information in there, or we will in the 201. And Eric and I had an interesting call with one of our followers who has gone through the course and is doing well, but he had a rejected takeoff. When he flew out of Miami last 2 weeks ago, right, Eric?
Yeah.
And Eric was commenting, he and I haven't even had a rejected takeoff in our collective.
We don't even know a guy whose brother's friend has a cousin who's done one ever. Not ever.
Yeah.
And so this guy really did it, a high speed one. So we're trying to run down the cause of that. And if we do, we'll get it back up here.
And it was a great interview, and we're going to put that up in the 201 content, and then we're trying to get him on the show as well. He would have been here, but he has a conflict in work. But the thing that I wanted to hear you have him say is how he was amazed at when they did a pretty high speed reject. That means they got close to the V1 speed and then so that means that those brakes on that airplane are going to break. You're going to notice that you're not going to get in the air, and it gets your attention. And he wanted to point out to us that it kept him from panicking. He could rely on the information that he had, and it helped him get back on the airplane, which he said not everybody did.
He got back on and he said, hey, there's some people missing.
Yeah.
That's a great interview. So if you're in the 201, definitely look out for that. And I do have one comment that I think is really great to close, because I don't know that you can say that very often, but Sue Hopkins, she wrote, if I can get over it after 50 years, anyone can. So that is definitely one to remember.
Very impressive.
Well, everybody was special, but the 2 Susans up there, they were amazing. And so we want more amazing people. For those of you who might be listening, we're going to hook up together this Saturday at Burbank. Looking forward to seeing you all. And that's going to take us out of another episode of Clear for Takeoff. No, that's the other class. Fearless Flight live. Okay. Thanks everybody. Thanks to my helpers here, and we'll see you again next week.